Hi, I'm Liam from off-road.cc, and in this video I'm going to show you how I'm going to set up my bike for the Merida EXenduro with hopes of giving you an idea of some things that you should think about if you're faced with an equally as big multi-day enduro event. So first things first, and I'm going to check over my bike to make sure that everything's running smoothly, and specifically that's going to be the drivetrain and the brakes. But if your suspension is due a service, that's well worth getting sorted before the event. But at the very least, you might want to consider getting a lower leg and an air can service just to keep things extra smooth. My suspension is still fairly new, so I'm confident that will run exactly as expected, but if something was to happen in between times, I'll have to get that fixed. So with the drivetrain, at the very least I want to do is check over the chain to make sure it's in good nick, because the last thing I want is for that chain to snap mid-stage. It's also well worth checking over the gear cables to make sure that they're in good nick too, because dodgy shifting off the start line can be really costly. As for the brakes, I'm going to check over the brake pads to see if they've got enough meat on them to last 3 days. I'll also bring a spare set just in case they do run out. And then I'm also going to give the brakes a bleed because it's an easy job to do, you might as well do it, and it's only going to improve your braking. Then it's vital to have a look over your tyres for any wear or damage because a puncture will be game ending mid-stage. So I know that EXenduro is a beast of a race with an awful lot of climbing, so while I want my bike to be dialed on the downhills, I need to make it as easy as the climber as possible. So to help with that, I'm going to bring 2 sets of tyres, one if it's dry and one if it's wet. And I'll also bring a bonus tyre just in case I wreck one of these. Thankfully, I've already raced some of the trails that I might face at the EXenduro, so I've already got quite a good idea of what to expect in terms of terrain. And that gives me a really good idea of how to choose the tyres that I'll need. If you're unsure of what terrain you would expect for your race, there's nothing like a quick Google to get some insider knowledge. So starting off with my dry setup, on the rear I'm going to kit out a Maxxis Minion SS, and it's a semi-slick tyre. If you've not heard of a semi-slick tyre before, it's a tyre that has a really slick and low profile centre tread with massive fat shoulder knobs. And the idea behind it is to provide low rolling resistance but solid cornering grip. And that low rolling resistance is what I'm really looking for when I'm going uphill. So moving on to the front of the bike, I've gone for a Maxxis Assegai, and it's a much more aggressive tyre. I've gone for this because it provides decent grip in the dry and is still rather grippy when it gets wet. So if it does rain midway through the day, I should still have pretty confident grip. This tyre is a bit draggy, but you don't feel drag as much on the front of the bike, and the Maxxis Minion SS at the rear will really counteract that drag. So moving on to my wet tyre choice, at the rear I'm going to fit a Maxxis Dissector. It's a tyre that's designed for dry and dusty trails, but I find that it performs really well in the wet when mounted at the rear. It rolls really well too for the grip it provides, and that's ideal for my particular requirements. If conditions are well and truly mixed, I can always put this on the back of the bike instead of the SS, and I wouldn't have too much of a penalty to rolling resistance. If it really decides to chuck it down at the front, I'll slap on a Maxxis Shorty. It's not the best rolling tyre in the world, but I will be rewarded with a confident front end and tons of grip in the wet. Its widely spaced knobs are designed to clear mud as well, and that's essential in wet weather riding. And the Shorty is another tyre that can cope rather well with mixed conditions, so if things were to dry up halfway through the day, I wouldn't be too hard done by, but I will have to deal with that extra rolling resistance. With these tyre choices, I am going to bring a spare just in case something would go really wrong, and that's going to be a Maxxis Minion DHF. It's a really well-rounded tyre that rolls really well and provides plenty of grip. Along with the tread patterns, you have to have a think about what kind of tyre casings you want to run. Of course, the stronger the casings, the heavier they are, and you'll feel that when you go uphill. At the rear, I've got my Minion SS kitted with the strongest double down casing. At the front, I've got an XO Plus because you don't need all of that weight at the front because you don't hit things as hard with your front tyre. So for my wet setup, I'm going for light casings because when it's wet, you just don't go as quickly and you won't need that extra weight, especially with the extra rolling resistance that I'll be coping with. So on the subject of tyres, I'm going to run tyre inserts, and in this bike I've got Cush Core, and I'm running it mainly to protect my rims because if I break a rim, that's the race over straight away. So with my bike setup, as well as low rolling resistance, I'm also going for long-term comfort, and Cush Core will help with that a little bit. It will dull down trail chatter and just make things a little bit easier as I'm going down the hill. So for my quest for long-term comfort, in quite a controversial move, I've kitted my bike with the Fast Company Flex handlebar. As its name suggests, it's a handlebar that's designed to flex thanks to a couple of elastomers that's kitted within these 2 hinges. So I've had it on test for a few months now, and I've found that it really takes the edge off of quickly repeating hits. And it also helps stave off arm pump later on into the ride, and that's going to be an invaluable advantage later on into the event. You'll also find a full review of these handlebars on off-road.cc pretty soon. Handguards are well worth considering because in the UK we've had quite a wet summer and a lot of the trails have become quite overgrown. Handguards add heaps of confidence when blasting through overgrown trails because you don't have to worry about trailside foliage whipping your hands. So this year I've been riding flat pedals quite a lot, and that's only because I've been testing quite a lot of flat pedal shoes. But for the race I'm going to move back over to clipless pedals, mainly because I'm after that efficiency that you can only get from clipless pedals. But along with that efficiency, I don't want my feet to move around like they often can with flat pedals. Anytime my foot shifts on a flat pedal, I find myself fixated on trying to move my foot back into that perfect spot, to the point where I'm not really concentrating on the trail. Compound that with a couple of days worth of fatigue and that's only going to lead to a very costly mistake. So I need that extra security that you get from clipped pedals. Though I'll still bring a spare pair of flat pedals and shoes just in case these pedals fail, and also if it gets so wet that I lose confidence using clips. So my kit preparation doesn't stop there, because I'm also going to bring with me a fitness watch, and that's mainly to keep track of my heart rate. It'd be quite easy to get carried away on a climb and absolutely blow out come the end of it. So if I keep checking my heart rate, I'll be able to find out whether or not I'm putting too much effort into a climb and keep my heart rate as low as I possibly can. Because the lower you can keep your heart rate over a longer period of time, the longer you can ride and the more energy you'll conserve. So because the EXenduro features 3 big long days, I'll have to carry extra provisions and extra spares, so that means a bigger bag. This one here carries 3 litres of water and has plenty of space for those extra provisions and spares. I won't go into too much detail because we already have a video explaining exactly what you should bring on a big day. But just for a quick example, in here I'll have the pump, CO2, the quick link, tubes, and of course all the food that I'm going to need. So then there's also a bunch of stuff that I'm going to bring to keep in the car. So that's going to be my full toolkit. It's going to be a big proper floor pump, and brake pads, my old chain, and just extra spares that I'll probably need during the race. While it is a good idea to carry a bigger bag that will let you carry a lot more water, it's also worth considering what you can strap onto your bike for easy reaching. The most obvious way around things like this is to use a kit strap to tie something like a tube, a CO2 canister and tie levers to your bike, but it's also worth noting that there's also a bunch of tools that you can mount onto your frame through bottle cages, and there's tyre repair kits that you can put into your bar ends. There's no right or wrong way of storing tools on your bike, so it's entirely up to you to decide how you would like to do it and where best to put your tools. You'll have to think about ergonomics and how quickly it will take to take out these tools and to make certain repairs. Then use that to store the tools in the right place where you think it would be most ergonomic. But we can't forget that there's going to be a couple of night stages. So I've got to pack some lights, and here I've got one that will sit on my helmet, and I've got another one that will sit on my handlebars. But both of these lights also work as power banks, so that will be really helpful when it comes to charging my phone or other devices. But these night stages have thrown up something of a conundrum. Because I'm going for long-term comfort, I find my Troy Lee Designs A3 the most comfortable helmet I've got. But it doesn't come with a suitable mount for a helmet-mounted light. Because the A3 doesn't come with a suitable mount for a light, I'm going to have to also bring my Smith forefront, because that has a hole in the top that works for this light perfectly. Thankfully, there is a time before the night ride where I can swap helmets, so it won't be an issue at all. But when it comes to helmet choice, it's really important to read the race's rules, because there might be a rule saying that you must wear a full face helmet. For the EXenduro, there isn't such a rule, so I'm going for long-term comfort, so I'm going to wear a half-face helmet. And finally, you have to give your bike a good clean before the race. After all, you don't want to be the one person turning up with a filthy bike. So that is my bike setup for the Merida EXenduro, and hopefully my choices will help you make informed choices should you take on a similarly large event. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this. And if I've missed anything, please let me know in the comments below, because I need all the help that I can get. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.